the Sisters Stories podcast. This podcast's aim is to marvel at God's sovereignty over each of our lives as women and to encourage one another by sharing our stories. My name is Sophie, and today I am joined by Ting Ting.
Thanks.
Hello. So first of all, Ting Ting, can you tell us who you are?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm Ting Ting, and I'm married to Steve. We've got 2 children, and I'm from Beijing, China.
Great. And what do you do?
I used to work for Shell, and that's how I met Steve. Then since we got married and then we got kids, so I stopped working. But at the same time, I did my another degree for teaching Chinese as a second language.
Wow.
And then after that, I've been just teaching in Singapore and in Beijing. And here I'm teaching in a Chinese school as well.
Oh, excellent. Great. So we're going to be talking about your journey to faith in Jesus Christ. But can you tell us, first of all, about your family background and how you were brought up?
Yes, sure. So, my dad's part, they are, especially for my grandfather, he's a Communist Party member,
Right.
and he's very traditional, very conservative about Christian, about the Western culture. But on the other hand, my mom's part, they are, none of them are party member. And because my mom's father is a businessman, and during the Cultural Revolution, my mom's family got quite a bit suffered because, so my mom's a teacher, my eldest auntie is a doctor, so everyone who were educated got punished basically during the Cultural Revolution. Right. So my mom and dad are quite different. But I think back to that history for people married to someone who has this, we call it red background, or the red family.
Yes.
It's kind of like, it's a trend, So yeah, so that's my mom and dad. But my grandmother on my mom's side, they are Christians. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Was that an influence in your life when you were a child? I
think definitely. I remember when I was 10 or 11 years old, I think they were under the underhouse church, underground church.
Yes.
So there's a priest that went to my auntie's place to give a sermon, and my mom took me there, and I was so interested, even though I don't really understand a lot, but I was quite interested. And on the way to the journey, it's kind of miracle happened. So back to the 80s, people don't really have car. So my mom went there by bicycle, and I sat at the back. Then some accident happened and I fell off, but my head was landed on the edge of the pavement, and it was quite dangerous. My mom was quite worried, but then for some reason I felt something I was not hurt, and something was, I told my mom is like really soft under my head, something, and it's just a kind of miracle. But that is on the way to my auntie's place. Yeah.
Okay. So, so you said your mom would bring you to these services. Did she have a belief in God herself, would you say?
She eventually became a Christian. She passed away in 2008 because of cancer. Right. She eventually became a Christian just like 2 months before. Wow. She's always listening, but she never really committed herself to Jesus, which is really sad. Even after I was baptized as a Catholic, and I was trying to bring my mom to the church and everything, but it seems not. She thought Christian is all about law, so she wasn't ready to commit herself. Yeah. But definitely the family. She always brought me to church. She very supportive when I went to the church or help with the church. So definitely I think has influence on me.
Wow. It's amazing, isn't it? How maybe someone who doesn't seem that committed would bring you along and you would become committed to the church in some way, and then that influences her back in a way.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Great. So that was all in China, wasn't it?
That's all in Beijing, yeah.
Wow. So then you said you went to Singapore at some point. Can you tell us a little bit what happened in your life afterwards? Yeah?
Sure. So Steve and I got married 2010, and after that we left for The Hague in the Netherlands. And we stayed there for about 6 months. Then Steve got a short-term contract back to Singapore. That's how we started our life in Singapore. And again, it's just the contract is being extended. So eventually we stayed in Singapore for 7 years. So both of the kids were born there. So when I was in Singapore, again, every time when I went to a new place, a new country, I always want to find a church first. So that's what we did as well in Singapore. But back then I was still a Catholic.
Yes.
And what I found about the Catholic Church, we do not have like what we have in Cornerstone, like Bible study or home group. So there's few period of my life I was very hungry for spiritual food, want to learn more, but I just don't have that. I don't.
Yes.
The church doesn't really apply for that. And I do remember, like when we went to the Catholic Church, at the end of the service, that the priest will stand at the entrance of the church, shook hands with everyone, then everyone left. So we don't know the name. The priest didn't know our name. We don't know each other's name, and so it's more like a ritual. Just went to the church on Sunday, received the communion, left. That's all I felt. So I don't feel any spiritual growth. Yeah. And then what happened is gradually I started to get drifted away because of, other things. When I got the young babies and there's no family around, I got busy. Then it's just, get me away from the church. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. If you go to a church that encourages people to just consume things and they don't get to be involved more than that, then it's very easy to drift away, isn't it?
Indeed.
I really wonder how, so you've talked about already attending Bible studies from a really young age and being interested in that. I wonder how much you understood of the gospel back then. Would you say you had some understanding or not at all as a child?
I think I was too young to really understand it. But I always believed that since I was very little, even until now, I always love staring at the sky, especially the blue and the white. I just love it. I always thinking there is a creator. I believe that. Every time I see, I remember the first time when I stood on the beach somewhere in the countryside of Beijing, and I even cried because I feel it's so amazing. The scenery is so big. I was so little. You feel there's so much to comprehend. Yes. So I feel like I always feel there's a God there. There's a creator there. So I didn't really understand the Bible completely, but I do believe there's a creator. There's a God. So when I was a child, indeed, I didn't really understand fully, but I'm glad to hear how, especially the Genesis, the creation of the world.
Yes.
And it's kind of like applied to what I believed before someone tell me how the world become.
You observed it.
I observed it and there was a God. So I'm always right. So that's always make me feel very touched. But yes, so that's my,
Yeah, I'm curious how, sorry, I'm going backwards a little bit, but I am curious how you came to go to a Catholic church and not another type of church. I wonder whether maybe in China the Catholic Church is a little bit more visible and present. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think the Catholic Church definitely very active to compare with the Protestant Church. And saying that, like all my aunties, they are Protestant. But I went to the Catholic Church because, again, they have so many activities for the young people. Like the reason I went there is because my mom is a musical teacher, and she had a student who is doing the piano in the Catholic Church, and they had this English lesson. And so it's basically all this volunteer giving their free time to do the lesson. So that's why I joined them. And then, of course, take this opportunity, the priest trying to spread the gospel to all these young people and welcome to join the church. And that's how I become a Catholic. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be in the UK, actually? Because I think that was quite recently, wasn't it?
Yes. So we came back to UK 2020 in February. And this is when the COVID started in China. And we thought we just came back for 3 weeks, get this passed for the safety of the children. Then we would eventually go back. And then we didn't expect this to become a pandemic. Then there's always, reasons, and, it's a long story basically, but it's a bit like the sermon that, Ben gave last Sunday. We make the plan, but God established every steps. And indeed, that's exactly happened to us. We really wanted to go back, actually, because our job is there, kids' school is there. To come here is just brought forward our plan to be back to UK, but we were not ready. So physically and, emotionally, I didn't even say goodbye to all my family when I left. So yes, but for some silly reasons, all kinds of reasons, like Steve couldn't get a visa back, or we couldn't get the flight. And one example, like because we knew the flight was really difficult from UK back to Beijing, so we booked a different set, and there's one is transition in Singapore, just one day before we should fly. Then Singapore immigration stopped all transition. So it just like Ben said, you open the door, you think, oh, here I can go out from here. Then boom, it's closed.
Yes.
Then another one, boom, closed. So then I've been praying a lot because I really want to know what's going on. Especially there's so much, there were so many uncertainties in our life. Yeah.
Yeah. It is amazing how God brought you here, and maybe you can tell us a little bit what being in Cornerstone changed in your life. But I think we don't see it when it happens. We get frustrated, or it's not what I wanted, and it must be quite distressful as well for you to not have been able to say goodbye to people as well. But even in that, God brings a blessing, or He brings us where He wants us to be. So can you tell us a little bit about what it has changed for you to be in Cornerstone?
Yes, I think the Cornerstone family definitely changed me and changed all of us, my kids, even Steve, who still doesn't believe in Jesus yet.
Yes.
But I have the confidence one day he will bow down his knee in front of Jesus. I think so. It's kind of like miracle again to find Cornerstone, because when we moved back to Kingston, I've been just praying that God, please help me to find the church. And I've been wrong before, and I don't want to get on the wrong path again, because I do not have much time left, and I think it's not, we don't have many. I'm 40 this year. We don't have many years, to waste. So, I've been praying, and so one day I knocked the door, and some of our church family already heard the story. I knocked the door, Ben opened the door and welcomed us, and I said, "It's amazing. This guy is so kind. Saying, will look for us. He's so it made me feel so personal. Like really treat me as a family.
Yes.
Not like when I go to Catholic church, we don't know each other. We don't know the priest. The priest didn't know us either. Yeah. Then when we joined the Cornerstone Church, and I see there's so much going on. There's so many opportunities for people to hear the gospel, and people really devoted themselves, their time, their effort to help to spread the word for the kids, for adults. So we were really touched. Even for my husband, who who always thought Christian, he has this impression about Christian are quite, what's the word? I can't remember. Means they feel better. They feel better than anyone else.
Yeah, they feel superior.
They feel superior. Yeah, that's his impression. But when he joined Cornerstone, he didn't see that. He said, these people are amazing indeed. And he wanted to help too, sometimes. And he came to the church every Sunday, and he loved to listen to the sermon. So it's big change to all of us. The kids love the church as well. And what also, the media fast that week really inspired me. Yeah. And I start from the 6:30, the Zoom session until through the whole day and until the evening when all family get together and learn the word of the Bible. And for that whole week, quite intense, I think, but I feel so, so inspired. Yeah. And since then, I started, every week we'll do a family preaching, not preaching, but, on the Zoom, not in a kind of like an app like Zoom. We have this meeting with back to my Chinese family. Right. And I will look for some sermon in Chinese, share the gospel with them.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm doing this every week, and it's been going for about 2 months.
Wow. And would you say that they are willing to hear the message?
It's quite interesting journey because at the beginning they were really keen to listen to it, and but they joined in for different reasons. For example, my dad, and he said, "Oh, it's just nice to see all of you on the same screen." That's the main reason he joined. And at the beginning, he probably even falling asleep, on halfway. But now he even challenged me. I remember last week we had 2 hours and 20 minutes. He even challenged me when we talk about the love of Jesus. He died and he forgave people. And he said, who would be able to do that? That's God, right? We cannot do that. He started to even challenge, even to raise questions. It's amazing because I can understand our preachers. It's like a one-way communication. Yes. If you hear the audience has no feedback or feedback, it's sometimes quite disencouraging, really. So that's what happened at the beginning. Nobody said anything.
Yes.
I'm the only one saying all the sermon. Listen to the pastor saying something. When I ask them questions, they are just quiet. But now they start to give me feedback what they want to listen.
Yes.
Why is this? Why Jesus is so loving? How we cannot do it because that's God. So they're asking. We have some discussion involved. That's really encouraging to see.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's interesting again how, because your family, they want to see you, so they're drawn to joining you, but then it becomes something else, doesn't it? It's not just about seeing you, which is lovely, obviously, but it is about actually finding out who is Jesus and who is God, and that Jesus is God, and, understanding that. So that's amazing, isn't it? And that must be really encouraging for you as well. Yeah.
Yes, it's really, also it's very comforting that, I think we're living in a very turbulent world today. And the politics in China, I think, it's not going, the country start to close again. So to be honest, I don't really know when we're able to see my dad, when he's able to get out, like before, travel around the world. We don't know when life will be back to normal. Yes. It's quite sad to think about that. But I told my family, in Jesus, we have hope. So, we have memory to look back. That's our past. But for the future, it is really comforting to know there's something you could look forward to. You have a hope. You have a hope in your heart. I told my family that my mom passed away, but now I think about my mom. I'm not feeling that sad anymore. Of course, I miss her for sure every day. Definitely, I wish that the kids see their grandmother. She could teach them piano, but all this will not happen. But I have a hope that one day we'll get united with her, you know. And this is the same thing to my father. I said, when you start to think about really important questions in your life, about, you know, about life and death, these kind of questions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really encouraging, actually. So I want to move on to maybe a bit of a closer time, and especially this last couple of years. Is there anything in particular that you feel you have learned in this last year, let's say, roughly?
Yes, I think there are two things I've learned. First of all, I think, as I said, because of my Catholic background, I didn't have that, like Cornerstone Church. We have these many opportunities to learn the gospel or the personal contact with each other within the family church. Then I drifted away. As you said, it's very easy to drift away because you have your busy life and the temptation from the world definitely is quite powerful, I have to say.
Yes.
It's difficult to resist sometimes. So if you don't have the church, as your family, very easy to get lost, like the lost sheep. So I think two things really important. So number one, we should always connect it to the body of Christ.
Yes.
Always be part of the church, always involved with the church family. And the second is trust in the Lord, trust that everything He's in control, not us. I think this COVID is taught every one of us a great lesson about that. That's the two important lessons I've learned.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And if you had to give some advice to younger Christians, what would you say to them?
Nothing new. Just as I said, be part of the church family. Second is always trust the Lord. And like the sermon said, put your plan to the Lord, discuss it with Him, trust everything in His hand, because He is sovereign. He has higher wisdom than us. He can see much further than we could. Yes, that's it.
Thank you so much, Ting Ting. Thank you for sharing your story with us today. That's all for today's episode of Sister Stories, but join us again next time.